The Gilgo Beach murder suspect, Rex Heuermann, is going to be in court later this afternoon. He's a father of two from Long Island. He has pleaded not guilty to 6 counts of murder for killing 3 sex workers whose remains were found along Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach in 2010. NewsNation legal contributor and Law and Crime Network anchor Jesse Weber is with us. Good morning to you. So this, after his arraignment, will really be his first court appearance, pleading not guilty. What can we expect today? Will we see any new developments, and what will be shared in court?
That's a really interesting question because there's been a little bit of mixed reporting on whether or not he has officially been indicted, meaning formally charged by the grand jury. It seems that when they first arrested him, they didn't actually go forward with a grand jury indictment. I mean, the charges maybe were presented to the grand jury. They maybe did that to not tip his hat, to not know that authorities were after him, so they wanted to arrest him as soon as possible. There is a period of time where he actually has to be formally charged by the grand jury. So I'm going to be very curious to hear if there's more information about that. We know that they have collected a lot more evidence from his home and property than they had before the arrest. So I'm going to be curious to see if he's going to be formally indicted on those charges with respect to those 3 women. And maybe more, interestingly, is he going to be charged with respect to that 4th woman? He was the prime suspect in the death of that 4th victim. Did investigators gather enough evidence to actually secure that 4th charge against him? I'm going to be very curious to see that. And then finally, if there's any issues about bail, which I don't think is very likely considering what he's charged with, I imagine his defense is going to try to make a move for him to be released from jail pending a trial. But as I said, I think very unlikely given the gravity of these charges.
Jesse, to your second point, the DA and investigators have been really tight-lipped about that 4th murder and what evidence they have. And then also they continue to get questions about all these other bodies that were found, if that is part of the investigation. Why do you think they're being so careful with what they're sharing?
They don't want to jeopardize the investigation at all. All eyes are on this case. They don't want anybody saying anything about it until they're sure of what they know and what they don't know. Because the worst thing that could happen is speculation and rumors and anything that would derail a potential prosecution against Rex Heuermann. Remember, they don't want to do anything at this point that would taint a future jury. So they're keeping everything tight-lipped. We saw the same kind of thing in Idaho with respect to Brian Kohberger. This is very standard in high-profile cases, particularly high-profile murder cases. I'm not surprised we're not learning all the information at this point.
Yeah, and the one guy who keeps showing up in front of the microphones giving updates about the case is the DA from Suffolk County, Ray Tierney. He has now said he'll be the lead prosecutor on this case. Any surprise here? Because it's so high-profile, he wants to make sure he maintains the lead on this?
Well, look, I don't know, Mr. Tierney, but I have seen, again, these kinds of big cases. You'll have the DA jump on. I mean, we saw something very similar in the Parkland school shooting case. I believe the DA in that jurisdiction actually prosecuted that case, came out of retirement to do that. I don't know Mr. Tierney's career, but I imagine this is, if not the biggest, one of the biggest cases he's ever been a part of. And it also means something for the DA to prosecute this because it is an important case. These were unsolved crimes. It affected the community. I'm from Long Island. I remember when this happened 10 years ago. And so I think there's a really powerful statement he's making by saying, I'm going to spearhead this and I'm going to be in charge of it.
The evidence is overwhelming, what they have already shared publicly. What do you think is the strongest piece of evidence for the prosecution's case, and how do you expect the defense to respond to it in court?
All right. I mean, I think it's all pretty bad. But if you had to tell me, it's the DNA, right? It's the DNA linking Heuermann back to the crime scenes. That DNA is very hard to explain. Now, what defense attorneys have traditionally said, there might have been contamination. Maybe they'll say, hey, he knew these victims. He was definitely soliciting them. He was having affairs. It's not surprising his DNA would be there. He just didn't know that he's not the killer. When he found out the people that he was involved with ended up dead, of course he started searching about this and wanted to see if investigators were thinking he might be involved. I think that's the best avenue they could go to try to explain away that DNA. Having said that, when I've seen these cases before, juries look to that and they think that's like the nail in the coffin because it's so hard to explain why his DNA would be on I think it was the burlap wrap that was wrapped up in these bodies.
Right. And there's so much evidence that they took from that house that we don't even know. They tore that place upside down. I think they even ripped out part of a bathtub in the process. He'll be in court this afternoon. Rex Heuermann will. Jesse Weber, as always, thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.